A father puts his demons to rest. Isaac Carter locked away the ghost, the deadly Delta Force operator who haunted nightmares across 3 continents. He traded shadows for sunlight, bloodshed for bedtime stories. All for his son, Elijah, until 2 cops crossed the line. One casual act of brutality against a 7-year-old boy. One dismissive smirk from men with badges who thought they were untouchable. "You're nobody," they told him. They couldn't have been more wrong. Now the ghost walks again, methodical and merciless. And as a hidden network of corrupt officials scrambles to respond, they're about to learn a terrible truth. You don't truly understand violence until you've provoked someone who mastered it, then chose to walk away, until you forced him to return. Just before we get back to it, I'd love to know where you're watching from today, and if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow's special episode is one you definitely don't want to miss. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Oak Ridge Heights, a quiet suburban neighborhood where manicured lawns and white picket fences created the illusion of perfect safety. Isaac Carter pulled his black SUV into the driveway of his modest 2-story home, loosening his tie as the engine died. He checked his watch, 5:30 p.m., just in time for dinner with Elijah. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm since Isaac had left his military past behind. 3 years of building his high-end security firm, Sentinel Solutions, had given him purpose, but nothing compared to the joy of raising his son. At 42, the lines around Isaac's eyes had deepened, and flecks of gray peppered his close-cropped hair, but his body remained as powerful as it had been during his Delta Force days. He kept himself combat-ready out of habit, not necessity, or so he thought. Isaac grabbed his briefcase and headed inside, where Mrs. Wilson, their elderly neighbor who watched Elijah after school, greeted him with a warm smile. "Right on time as always, Mr. Carter," she said, gathering her knitting. "Elijah's playing outside with his new ball. Such a good boy." "Thanks for watching him, Mrs. Wilson." Isaac placed $20 on the counter despite her protests. Did he finish his homework? Every bit. Even the extra math problems his teacher assigned. That boy's sharp as a tack. Isaac smiled with pride. Just like his mother. A brief shadow crossed his face at the mention of Elijah's mother, but he quickly masked it. "I'll see you tomorrow, Mrs. Wilson said, patting his arm before leaving. Isaac changed out of his suit into jeans and a navy Henley. He was eager to see Elijah. Their evening ritual of dinner, homework review, and reading together was the highlight of his day. But when he looked out the kitchen window, he frowned. Elijah wasn't in the backyard where he usually played. A child's scream pierced the evening quiet. Isaac's heart stopped. He knew that voice. In an instant, he was through the front door, his body moving with the fluid precision of a predator. The scene before him unfolded like a nightmare. Elijah, his 7-year-old son, was face down on the asphalt, a police officer's knee pressing into his small back. The boy's blue ball rolled away, forgotten. A crowd of neighbors had gathered, their faces masks of shock and outrage. "Stay down, kid," barked the officer, a stocky man with a buzz cut and mirrored sunglasses. His name tag read Reynolds. "That's my son," Isaac's voice cut through the commotion like a blade. "Get your hands off him, now." Reynolds looked up but didn't remove his knee. "This your kid? Maybe teach him not to run at police vehicles." A second officer emerged from the cruiser, taller, older, with cold eyes and a detective's badge. "Stand back, sir," he said, his hand resting casually on his holstered weapon. "We've got this under control." Isaac took a deliberate step forward, his hands visible but his posture a clear warning to anyone who knew how to read it. "My 7-year-old son was retrieving his ball, and you slammed him to the ground. Remove your knee from his back immediately." The detective, Connors according to his badge, stepped between them. "Your boy ran toward a police vehicle in a suspicious manner. Officer Reynolds followed protocol." Isaac's eyes narrowed. "Protocol for a child retrieving a toy?" By now, Elijah had begun sobbing, his face contorted in pain and fear. "Daddy, it hurts." Something dangerous flickered in Isaac's eyes. A glimpse of the man he once was, the operative who had moved through war zones like a shadow, leaving only bodies in his wake. The man known as Ghost. "Last warning," Isaac said, his voice dropping, to a register that made several onlookers step back instinctively. "Release my son." Perhaps sensing the shift in energy, Reynolds finally removed his knee and pulled Elijah roughly to his feet. The boy immediately broke free and ran to his father, burying his face in Isaac's legs. Isaac placed a protective hand on his son's head while maintaining eye contact with the officers. "Are you okay, buddy?" he asked, kneeling to examine his son without taking his eyes off the police. Elijah nodded through tears, clutching his ribs. "My side hurts, Daddy." Isaac gently lifted his son's shirt to find angry red marks that would soon become bruises. The sight of them sent a cold, deadly clarity through Isaac's mind. "Name and badge number," Isaac demanded, rising to his full height. Connors smirked. "Listen, buddy, we're just doing our job. Maybe teach your kids some respect for law enforcement." "Respect is earned," Isaac replied evenly. "Name and badge number, now." "Detective Brian Connors, badge 8734. This is Officer Jake Reynolds, badge 6219. Connors took a step closer, lowering his voice. "And you're nobody. Remember that." The threat hung in the air between them. Reynolds joined his partner, adjusting his belt with a sneer. "You should teach your boy to stay away from police cars, for his safety." Isaac maintained perfect control, but those who knew him would have recognized the slight narrowing of his eyes, the only warning sign before the ghost eliminated a target. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," Isaac said, his voice so quiet that only the officers could hear him. "That's a promise." Something in his tone made Reynolds' smirk falter, but Connors remained unimpressed. "Sounds like a threat. 2 officers. Want to spend the night in lockup?" Isaac said nothing, simply staring at them with cold, calculating eyes. "That's what I thought," Connors said, tapping Reynolds on the shoulder. "Let's roll." As they returned to their cruiser, neither noticed the woman across the street who had recorded the entire incident on her phone, nor did they spot the traffic camera that had captured everything. Isaac lifted Elijah into his arms, his son's sniffles breaking his heart. "Let's get you inside, buddy." "Why did they hurt me, Daddy?" Elijah asked, his innocence making the question all the more devastating. Isaac had no easy answer. "Sometimes people with power make bad choices," he said carefully. "But I promise you this, they won't hurt you again." As Isaac carried his son inside, he didn't see the dark sedan parked 2 blocks away. Inside sat a figure watching the scene through high-powered binoculars. The man lowered them, a look of recognition crossing his scarred face. "Carter," he whispered, reaching for a secure phone. "So the ghost is still alive." Within hours, the police body cam footage would be intercepted, a sophisticated hack that would leave no trace. The wheels were already in motion. A test had been conducted, and the results were intriguing to those who had long believed Isaac Carter to be dead. They had no idea what they had just awakened. That night, as Elijah finally fell asleep, exhausted from crying and the trauma of the day, Isaac sat in the darkness of his home office. On his computer screen, the backgrounds of Detective Brian Connors and Officer Jake Reynolds filled multiple windows. His fingers flew across the keyboard, breaking through security protocols that would have stopped most hackers. His face, illuminated by the blue glow of the monitor, showed no emotion. But deep in his eyes, a fire had been lit, one that hadn't burned since his days as the most lethal Delta Force commander in history. They had hurt his son. And now, they would learn why enemies had feared the ghost. The harsh fluorescent lights of Mercy General Hospital's emergency room made Elijah's skin look paler than it was. Isaac sat beside the bed, his large hand engulfing his son's small one, as the doctor reviewed the results of the scans. "He has a mild concussion, some internal bruising on his left side, and of course the external contusions," Dr. Sarah Wells explained, her kind eyes moving between the charts and Isaac's face. "Physically, he'll recover quickly. Children are resilient, but the emotional trauma..." She lowered her voice. "I'd recommend speaking with our child psychologist." Isaac nodded, his thumb gently stroking Elijah's hand. "Thank you, doctor." When she left, Elijah looked up at his father with eyes that seemed older than his 7 years. "Why do bad people hurt us, Dad?" The question hit Isaac like a physical blow. In his former life, the answer had been simple. Because the world was full of evil men, and it was his job to eliminate them. But how could he explain that reality to his innocent son? Some people forget how to be kind, Isaac said finally. They let fear or anger make their decisions. Elijah considered this, his brow furrowing. Were you afraid when you saw the police hurting me? No, Isaac answered honestly. I was angry. But you didn't hurt them back. Isaac squeezed his son's hand. There are better ways to handle things, but even as he spoke the words, Isaac felt the old instinct stirring within him, muscle memory that had been dormant for years, awakening like a predator scenting blood. The calculated precision with which he could dismantle threats, the focus that had made him legendary, the training that had transformed him into a ghost. Try to get some rest, buddy, Isaac said, smoothing Elijah's hair. I'll be right here. Once Elijah had drifted off to sleep, Isaac stepped into the hallway and pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he found one labeled simply, Miles. He hesitated only briefly before pressing call. A gruff voice answered on the second ring. This line better be secure. It is, Isaac confirmed. A pause. Ghost? Christ, it's been what? 3 years? Something like that. You only call when there's trouble. Miles's voice grew serious. What happened? Isaac detailed the incident briefly, his voice controlled but tight with anger. Jesus, Miles breathed. The kid okay? He will be. And the cops? Isaac said nothing, which was answer enough. Miles sighed. Listen, there's something you should know. We intercepted some chatter last week. Your name's been flagged. Someone's watching you. Isaac's grip tightened on the phone. Who? Don't know. High level, though. Military or intelligence. Maybe both. And the timing? Too convenient to be coincidence, Miles agreed. Watch your 6, Ghost. This wasn't random. After hanging up, Isaac returned to Elijah's room, his mind racing. If Miles was right, and he usually was, then the incident with his son hadn't been simple police brutality. It had been orchestrated. A test, perhaps. Someone had wanted to see how he would react. The thought chilled him, even as it focused his rage into something cold and precise. When Elijah was discharged the following morning, Isaac took him home and made sure he was comfortable. Mrs. Wilson arrived, alarmed by what had happened. I'll stay with him all day, she promised. You do what you need to do. Isaac nodded gratefully. I have some business at the office. Call me if anything changes. But Isaac didn't go to his security firm. Instead, he drove to a storage facility on the outskirts of town. Using a key he kept around his neck, he unlocked a climate-controlled unit that had remained untouched for years. Inside, beneath a tarp, sat metal cases bearing no markings. Isaac opened one to reveal specialized equipment, gear that civilian security consultants had no business owning. He ran his fingers over a tactical vest, remembering the weight of it on his shoulders during operations in places that didn't officially exist. His phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. This wasn't random. He was targeted to test you. Isaac stared at the message. It couldn't be traced. He tried immediately, but it confirmed his suspicions. Someone had used his son as bait. Someone who knew his past. That night, after ensuring Elijah was asleep with Mrs. Wilson keeping watch, Isaac moved through the darkness like the ghost that had earned him his call sign. He wore black tactical pants and a form-fitting long-sleeve shirt that wouldn't restrict his movement. A small pack contained the tools of infiltration, lockpicks, signal jammers, and other items that blurred the line between military and criminal equipment. Officer Reynolds lived in a modest apartment complex 10 miles from the police station. The security was laughable to someone with Isaac's training. He broke into Reynolds' car first, placing a military-grade tracking device beneath the driver's seat. Then, using a signal interceptor, he cloned Reynolds' phone in under 2 minutes. By the time he reached Detective Connors' house, a surprisingly expensive home for a detective's salary, Isaac had already discovered several concerning details. Reynolds had numerous civilian complaints buried in his record. And now, Sifting. Through Connors's home office while the detective slept upstairs, Isaac found even more disturbing information. Bank statements showed regular deposits from offshore accounts. Case files revealed pattern of targeted harassment in specific neighborhoods. And buried deep in Connors's personal emails were communications with someone identified only as V. LE messages discussing asset acquisition and leverage operations. Isaac photographed everything, his mind piecing together connections with the efficiency that had made him an exceptional intelligence officer before he became a combat commander. This wasn't just corrupt cops abusing their power. This was systemic, organized, and somehow his son had been deliberately placed in their path. By morning, Isaac had compiled a detailed dossier on both officers, revealing a pattern of corruption that extended beyond simple police brutality. Using an anonymous server, he sent copies to the police chief, the mayor's office, and 3 investigative journalists known for their integrity. At 6:42 a.m., Detective Brian Connors's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You're being watched. Every move. Every breath. You touched my son. Now I'm coming for everything." Across town, Officer Jake Reynolds opened his front door to find a small package. Inside was a single photograph of him sleeping in his bed the night before, and a note. "I could have killed you 16 different ways. This is your only warning. Run." Isaac watched through hacked security cameras as both men received his messages. Connors immediately picked up his phone, his hands shaking so badly he had to redial 3 times. Reynolds vomited in his kitchen sink. Neither man knew they were dealing with a ghost, a man who had been trained to infiltrate the most secure facilities in the world, eliminate high-value targets, and disappear without a trace. A man who had led the most successful Delta Force unit in modern history before vanishing into civilian life. A man who would do anything to protect his son. At Sentinel Solutions, Isaac's security firm, he maintained his normal schedule that day, reviewing client protocols and conducting meetings as if nothing had changed. His employees noticed nothing unusual about their boss. Perhaps he was a bit quieter than usual, but no one would have guessed that beneath his calm exterior, a deadly calculation was taking place. During his lunch break, Isaac received another text from the unknown number. "You've been dormant too long, Ghost. The world needs what you can do. They're watching to see if you still have it." This time, Isaac replied, "Who is this?" The response came immediately. "An old friend. Meet me at Highland Park, North Bench, 1600 hours. Come alone." Isaac considered ignoring the message but knew he needed information. Someone was pulling strings, and those strings had put his son in danger. After work, Isaac drove to Highland Park, taking a circuitous route to ensure he wasn't followed. He positioned himself with a clear view of the North Bench 15 minutes before the scheduled meeting time, scanning for threats or surveillance. Adoadtao. Exactly 4 p.m., a woman in a business suit sat down on the bench. Her posture and awareness of her surroundings marked her as military or intelligence. Isaac approached cautiously, sitting beside her without making eye contact. "I didn't expect the ghost to be playing suburban dad," she said, her voice low. "Who are you?" Isaac asked. "Agent Olivia Park, FBI." She didn't offer identification. "I've been investigating a network of corrupt officials for 2 years. Your name came up recently in some very interesting communications." "Why should I trust you?" She smiled thinly. "You shouldn't. But we have mutual interests. The men who hurt your son are part of something bigger, a private military operation, being assembled by General Victor Langley." The name hit Isaac like a physical blow. Victor Langley had been his commanding officer years ago, a hard but fair leader who had personally recommended Isaac for Delta Force. Now retired, Langley had apparently moved into the private sector with considerable influence. "Langley wouldn't order a hit on a child," Isaac said, though doubt crept into his voice. "The Langley you knew wouldn't," Park agreed. "But power changes people. He's building something dangerous, recruiting former special forces, intelligence officers, anyone with skills and few moral boundaries. And you think he's testing me? Seeing if I still have what it takes?" Park nodded. "You were his best. The ghost, the operative who could get in anywhere, eliminate any target, Disappear without a trace. Of course he wants you. So he had cops. Assault my son to what? Provoke me? To see how you'd respond. If you still had the killer instinct or if civilian life had softened you. She looked at him directly for the first time. Based on what those officers received this morning, I'd say he got his answer. Isaac stood. Tell Langley that if he ever comes near my son again, I'll show him exactly what the ghost is capable of. He already knows, Park replied. That's what worries me. That night, as Isaac tucked Elijah into bed, his son looked up with those impossibly innocent eyes. Dad? Are the bad policemen going to come back? Isaac sat on the edge of the bed, choosing his words carefully. No, buddy, they won't bother you again. Promise? I promise. And it was a promise Isaac intended to keep, regardless of the cost. After Elijah fell asleep, Isaac retreated to his home office, where he began methodically planning his next move. On his computer, he pulled up everything he could find on General Victor Langley's current operations, shell companies, property holdings, known associates. His phone buzzed with a text from Miles. We need to talk. They're moving faster than expected. Isaac replied. My place. 100. At 1:02 a.m., Miles arrived, a hulking figure with a shaved head and a scar running from his left ear to his jaw. He had been Isaac's second in command in Delta Force, the only man Isaac had trusted completely in the field. You look soft, Miles said by way of greeting, though his eyes showed concern. And you look old, Isaac replied, the ghost of a smile crossing his face as he led Miles to his office. Once the door was closed, Miles's demeanor changed completely. They hit a child ghost, your child. This isn't a recruitment tactic, it's a declaration of war. Langley wants me back in the game. Langley wants to own you, Miles corrected, or eliminate you if he can't. He's been building a private army, ex-special forces, intelligence assets, mercenaries. But he needs someone like you to lead the operations. Isaac leaned back in his chair. And if I refuse, then you're a liability. You know too much about his past operations, his methods. Miles pulled out a small device and swept the room for bugs. Finding none, he continued, There's more. Langley's got political backing. Senators, judges, high-ranking, military officials. This isn't just a rogue general's power trip. It's organized, funded, and protected. Isaac processed this information with the cold calculation that had once made him an exceptional operative. So I have two choices, join him or fight him. There's a third option, Miles said quietly. Disappear. Take your son and vanish. I can help set you up with new identities, offshore accounts. For a moment, Isaac considered it. He could take Elijah somewhere remote, somewhere safe. But the thought of running, of showing his son that evil should be fled from rather than confronted, settled like lead in his stomach. No, he said finally. Langley came after my family. Now I'm going to dismantle everything he's built. Miles nodded, unsurprised. I figured you'd say that. That's why I brought this. He pulled a USB drive from his pocket. Everything we've gathered on Langley's operation, personnel, locations, financial records, it's a start. Isaac took the drive, their fingers briefly touching in a moment of solidarity. You don't have to be part of this, Miles. You've got a life now. Miles laughed grimly. What life? Drinking myself to sleep in a studio apartment? Working private security for rich assholes? Besides, he added, the unit sticks together. Always. After Miles left, Isaac inserted the USB drive into his computer. What he found confirmed his worst fears. Langley had been building his organization for years, placing assets in law enforcement, politics, and the military. The corruption ran deep, and at its center was a plan for a private military force that would operate without oversight or accountability. And now, Langley had made his first move against Isaac's family. As dawn broke, Isaac stood in Elijah's doorway, watching his son sleep peacefully. Everything he had done since leaving the military, creating a normal life, building a legitimate business, being a present father, had been for this boy, for his safety and future. Isaac had buried the ghost, believing that part of him was no longer needed. But as he watched his son's chest rise and fall, he knew with cold certainty that the ghost was awakening once more, and this time, he wouldn't rest until Langley and everyone connected to him was destroyed. The war had begun. Detective Brian Connors pulled his unmarked sedan into the underground parking garage of the Westbrook Hotel, his hands trembling slightly on the steering wheel. He hadn't slept properly since receiving that message 3 days ago. Someone had been in his house, photographed his files, sent evidence of his corruption to the press. Someone knew everything. He checked his sidearm and glanced at his watch, 8:56 p.m. The meeting was set for 9 p.m. in the penthouse suite. He'd been summoned like a dog, and like a dog, he'd come running. He had no choice. The elevator ride to the top floor seemed interminable. When the doors finally opened, 2 men in dark suits frisked him thoroughly before escorting him into a spacious living room where General Victor Langley stood gazing out at the city lights. At 62, Langley remained imposing, tall, with silver hair and the rigid posture of a career military man. He didn't acknowledge Connors immediately, continuing to study the nighttime skyline. "You've created quite a mess, Detective," Langley finally said, his voice calm but threaded with steel. "Sir, I had no idea. That the man whose son you assaulted was Isaac Carter?" Langley turned now, his cold eyes fixing on Connors. "One of the most lethal operatives ever to serve under my command?" Connors swallowed hard. "The name meant nothing to me. We were told to put pressure on the boy, see how the father reacted. And now you've awakened a ghost." Langley crossed to a well-stocked bar and poured 2 fingers of whiskey. "Carter was called Ghost for a reason, Detective. He infiltrated places thought impenetrable, eliminated targets believed untouchable, then vanished without a trace. He took a measured sip. I trained him myself." "What do we do now?" Connors asked, fear evident in his voice. Langley's expression hardened. "Now? We contain the situation. Carter is dangerous, but he's still just one man. He got into my house," Connors blurted. "While I was sleeping. Left a message. He could have killed me." "That was a warning," Langley replied. "If he'd wanted you dead, we wouldn't be having this conversation." He placed his glass down deliberately. "Carter is a ghost. If he's alive and active, he's dangerous. But every man has a weakness." A cold smile crossed his face. "His is that boy." "You want us to go after the kid again?" Officer Reynolds asked incredulously from the doorway, where he'd been standing unnoticed. Langley fixed him with a stare that made the officer step back. "No, that would be unwise. For now we wait. Let him make the next move while we prepare." "Prepare for what?" Connors asked. "War," Langley replied simply. "Carter needs to be handled, permanently, or brought into the fold." After the officers were dismissed, another figure emerged from the shadows of the adjoining room. A man with a scarred face and eyes that had witnessed too much violence. "You really think he'll join us?" the man asked, his voice raspy. Langley turned back to the window. "After what his own government did to him?" "Perhaps. Either way, I want him watched. Every move, every contact." The man nodded and disappeared, as silently as he'd arrived. Across town, Isaac was conducting his own surveillance. Seated in a nondescript van parked a block from Langley's downtown office building, he monitored the feeds from the bugs Miles had planted the previous night. Through sophisticated hacking, Isaac had gained access to Langley's corporate network. What he found confirmed his suspicions and intensified his resolve. Langley wasn't just building a private security force, he was assembling an elite army answerable only to him and his unknown backers. Purchase orders for military-grade weapons shipped through shell companies, training facilities disguised as corporate retreats, former special forces operators on the payroll listed as security consultants. Isaac downloaded everything to an encrypted drive, his mind already formulating plans. As a Delta Force commander, He had excelled at asymmetric warfare, using limited resources to dismantle much larger enemy operations. This would be no different. His phone buzzed. A text from Miles. Movement at target location. Langley on the side. Move. Isaac watched through hacked traffic cameras as Langley's motorcade left his office building. 3 black SUVs with armed security. They headed toward the harbor district, eventually stopping at a private dock where a sleek yacht awaited. Isaac zoomed in on the security footage, identifying several figures boarding alongside Langley. Politicians, a judge he recognized from federal court, and 2 high-ranking military officers in civilian clothes. Interesting company you're keeping, Isaac murmured, capturing still images of each person. He returned home late that night to find Mrs. Wilson dozing in the living room. She startled awake when he entered. Elijah's been asleep for hours, she said, gathering her things. He had a good day. Didn't even mention what happened. Isaac nodded gratefully. Thank you for staying late. That boy needs stability right now, she replied, her kind eyes suddenly sharp. Whatever you're doing, Mr. Carter, be careful. That child can't lose another parent. The words hit home. Isaac checked on Elijah, watching his son's peaceful sleep for several minutes before retreating to his office. Mrs. Wilson was right. Everything he did now carried risk. He needed to move carefully, strategically. But first, he needed to understand exactly what he was facing. The next morning, Isaac dropped Elijah at school, hugging him longer than usual. Have a great day, buddy. I'll pick you up at 3. Promise? Elijah asked, still clingy since the incident. Promise. Isaac watched until his son disappeared inside the building, then made a call. I need the full background on Judge William, Norton and Senator James Taylor. Everything. Within hours, Isaac had compiled a disturbing pattern. Both men had ruled or voted on cases and legislation that benefited Langley's various enterprises. Financial records showed unexplained increases in their net worth, timed perfectly with those decisions. The web of corruption spread further than Isaac had initially thought. It wasn't just a few dirty cops. It was judges, politicians, military, officers, a shadow network operating within legitimate institutions. That afternoon, just as Isaac was preparing to leave to pick up Elijah, his secure phone rang. We've got a problem, Miles said without preamble. Langley knows you're digging. He's moving something big tonight. Weapons shipment coming through the private airfield. Military grade. Off the books. Isaac's mind raced. Send me the details. Ghost, you can't hit this alone. It's too big. I'm not hitting anything yet, Isaac replied. Just gathering intel. After picking up Elijah and ensuring Mrs. Wilson would stay the night, Isaac prepared for reconnaissance. In his basement, behind, a false wall. He accessed equipment he'd hoped never to use again. Tactical gear, specialized weapons, surveillance tools that weren't available to civilians. The ghost was emerging from retirement. That night, Isaac infiltrated the private airfield with the silent efficiency that had made him legendary. He moved through security blind spots, disabled cameras in his path, and positioned himself with a perfect view of the runway. At precisely 2:17 a.m., a cargo plane landed without lights. 8 men in tactical gear unloaded crates into waiting trucks under the supervision of a figure Isaac recognized, Blake Wilson, another former Delta Force operative who had served under Isaac years ago. Isaac used a directional microphone to capture their conversation, then photographed the serial numbers visible on the crates. As the last truck pulled away, Isaac extracted himself as silently as he had arrived, leaving no trace of his presence. Back in his office, he ran the serial numbers through a military database Miles had provided access to. The results confirmed his fears. The crates contained next-generation weapon systems that weren't supposed to exist outside classified military installations. Langley wasn't just building a private security force. He was arming a private military with cutting-edge weapons. The next move had to be decisive. Dawn was breaking when Isaac's doorbell rang. He checked the security camera to find Detective Connors standing on his porch alone and visibly nervous. Isaac activated a signal jammer before opening the door. "Bold move, coming here," Isaac said coldly. Connors looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes. I need to talk to you. Alone. Isaac stepped aside, allowing Connors to enter while keeping a careful distance. You have 2 minutes. I didn't know who you were, Connors blurted. We were ordered to provoke you, to test your reaction. I didn't know they'd target a child. Ordered by Langley? Connors nodded, sweat beading on his forehead. He's got half the department on his payroll. Judges, politicians, military brass, they're all involved. Tell me something I don't know, Isaac replied. They're afraid of you, Connors said. Langley especially. He knows what you're capable of. And yet he came after my son. Connors looked down. That wasn't the original plan. Reynolds took it too far. We were just supposed to hassle you, not hurt the boy. Isaac's expression remained impassive. Why are you here, detective? Because I want out, Connors admitted. But Langley doesn't let people walk away. I've seen what happens to those who try. So you thought you'd switch sides? Betray Langley to save yourself? I'm not a fool, Connors replied. I know I'm already dead. But my daughter isn't. She's 19, in college. I want your word that whatever happens to me, she stays safe. Isaac studied him for a long moment. Information first. Then we'll discuss terms. Over the next hour, Connors detailed Langley's operation. Safe houses, dummy corporations, blackmail material on key officials. Most importantly, he revealed the location of Langley's secret command center, a renovated bunker beneath an abandoned military installation outside the city. He calls it the Fortress, Connors explained. It's where he runs everything, completely off the grid, state-of-the-art security. And you've been inside? Connors nodded. Twice. It's a fortress in more than name. Automated defense systems, elite guards, the works. When Connors finally left, with Isaac's reluctant promise to protect his daughter, Isaac immediately called Miles. I need a team, he said simply. The best of what's left of our unit. It's time. They've been waiting for your call, Miles replied. What's the play? First we hit their money, then their operations, then Langley himself. Isaac's voice was cold, precise, the voice of the ghost, not the security consultant or the father. He wanted to see if I still had it. Let's show him. The first strike came that night. Using information from Connors and his own reconnaissance, Isaac and Miles hit a warehouse containing Langley's illegal weapons stockpile. They didn't steal anything. They simply rigged it with explosives and vanished into the night. The explosion lit up the harbor district, destroying millions in illegal arms and creating a firestorm of police and fire response that Langley couldn't control or contain. It was just the beginning. The next day, as Isaac maintained his normal routine, taking Elijah to school, working at his security firm, Miles and 2 other former Delta Force operators hit 3 more of Langley's operations simultaneously. A money laundering front was exposed with anonymous tips to the FBI. A blackmail archive was stolen from a secure server facility. A shipment of military electronics was intercepted and destroyed. Systematic. Precise. The hallmarks of the ghost. By day 3, Langley was scrambling. Isaac monitored the increased security at all of Langley's known locations, the frantic communications between his lieutenants, the mounting losses in personnel and resources. Then came the counterstrike. Isaac was at his office when the first report reached him. Someone had tried to grab Elijah from school. The attempt had failed only because Agent Park had been watching, intercepting the kidnappers before they could reach the boy. 3 men, military training, Park told Isaac over a secure line. Professional. Your son is safe. I've got him at a secure location, but they'll try again. Ice formed in Isaac's veins. Langley's making his move. Not just against your son, Park replied grimly. My supervisor called me in this morning. Someone's been digging into my background trying to link me to unauthorized operations. They're coming after anyone helping you. This was always going to escalate, Isaac said. It's time for the next phase. That evening, Isaac met with his assembled team in an abandoned factory Miles had secured. 5 former Delta Force operators plus Agent Park, men and women who had once been the most elite warriors in the world, now gathered for one final mission. Langley has resources, political cover, and a small army. Isaac told them. What we have is better. We have nothing to lose, and we know how he thinks. He outlined the plan, a coordinated attack on Langley's entire operation, designed to isolate the general from his support structure before taking him down. This won't be sanctioned, Isaac warned. No badges, no authority, no backup. Anyone who wants to walk away, now's the time. No one moved. Then let's go hunting, Isaac said quietly. The assault began at midnight. 3 teams hit Langley's key facilities simultaneously. Communications hubs, security details, backup servers. Isaac led the main thrust, targeting Langley's downtown command center. The fighting was brutal but brief. Isaac's team moved with the synchronized precision of elite operators, neutralizing Langley's security forces before they could mount an effective defense. By dawn, Langley's operational capacity had been crippled. His communication network was down, his security team scattered, his data centers compromised. But the general himself remained elusive. Then came the message, delivered not to Isaac, but to Elijah's school. A small package containing a toy car with a tiny explosive device inside. It was found and neutralized before reaching the boy, but the message was clear. Nowhere was safe. Langley had crossed the final line. That night, Isaac returned to his home to gather additional equipment. As he entered, his instincts screamed a warning. Something was wrong. The house was too quiet, the air too still. He drew his sidearm just as the first shots shattered the front windows. Langley's death squad had come to finish what they started. Gunfire tore through the quiet suburban street as Isaac dove behind his kitchen island. Bullets splintered wood and shattered glass around him. From his position, he counted at least 6 attackers moving in a professional formation. Former military, possibly ex-special forces like himself. Langley had sent his best. Isaac breathed deeply, feeling a familiar calm settle over him. The combat clarity that had kept him alive through countless operations. He was outnumbered and outgunned in his own home, but this was far from the worst situation the Ghost had faced. The first attacker breached through the back door, weapon raised. Isaac struck with lethal efficiency, a single shot through the man's throat before he could fire. The second came through the shattered front window and met a similar fate. Then Isaac went on the offensive. He moved through his own home like a shadow, using his intimate knowledge of every corner to his advantage. One by one, the attackers fell, a knife to the base of the skull for the man checking the laundry room, a brutal hand-to-hand takedown. In the hallway, precision shots for the 2 remaining outside. 6 minutes from first shot to last. 6 highly trained operatives eliminated by 1 man. The Ghost had returned to war. Isaac checked each body, finding no identification, but recognizing military tattoos on several. As he secured the perimeter, his phone rang. "They hit your house," Miles said without preamble. "You alive?" "I'm fine," Isaac replied, scanning the street for any further threats. "Langley's getting desperate." "Not just your place," Miles continued grimly. "They hit Park's apartment too. She wasn't there, but they left a message. A photo of your son with a target painted over his face." Cold rage solidified in Isaac's chest. "Where is Elijah now?" "Safe House Alpha. My best people with him, plus Park. No one's getting to him." Isaac made a decision. "It's time. Gather everyone. We end this tonight." "The fortress?" Miles asked. "Ghost, that's suicide. Even with our team, the security systems alone." "Will be handled," Isaac interrupted. "I've been planning this since day 1. While Miles assembled their team, Isaac made one last call to Mrs. Wilson. "I need you to pack a bag," he told her. "Someone will pick you up in 30 minutes. I can't explain now, but it's important." "Is this about what happened to Elijah?" she asked, her voice surprisingly steady. "Yes. You might be in danger by association." There was a brief pause. "I was a military nurse for 20 years, Mr. Carter. I recognize a war when I see one. Do what you need to do. I'll look after your boy." An hour later, Isaac arrived at a nondescript warehouse where his team had assembled. The 5 former Delta Force operators, Miles, Jennifer, Marcus, Tyler, and Diego, were checking weapons and gear with methodical precision. Agent Park stood slightly apart, looking uncomfortable in tactical clothing but determined. "Before we start," Isaac addressed them, "you need to understand what we're facing. Langley's compound is a former military bunker, designed to withstand attacks much larger than what we can bring. It has automated defense systems, at least 30 guards, and Langley himself, still one of the most dangerous men I've ever met." "So, a normal Tuesday," quipped Diego, the team's demolitions expert. Isaac continued, "Our advantage is that Langley thinks like a general, strategic, methodical. But tonight, we're not soldiers. We're ghosts." He unveiled the plan. Using Connor's inside information, they would exploit a maintenance tunnel that bypassed most of the compound's defenses. Once inside, they would divide into 3 teams. 1 to disable the security systems, 1 to neutralize the guards, and Isaac's team to find Langley. "Questions?" Isaac asked when he finished. "Just one," Jennifer replied, loading her rifle. "What's the extraction plan?" Isaac met her gaze. "There isn't one. We either succeed or we don't come back." No one objected. They all understood the stakes. Before departing, Isaac visited the adjacent room where Elijah was being kept safe. The boy was playing a board game with Mrs. Wilson, seemingly unconcerned with the armed guards nearby. "Dad!" Elijah ran to him, wrapping small arms around Isaac's waist. "Mrs. Wilson says we're having a sleepover adventure at her sister's house." Isaac knelt to eye level with his son. "That's right, buddy. I've got some work to do, but when it's done, I'll come get you." "Promise?" Elijah asked, his eyes searching his father's face. Isaac swallowed the lump in his throat. "I promise. Remember what I taught you about being brave?" "Being brave means doing the right thing even when you're scared," Elijah recited. "That's right. And sometimes the bravest thing is protecting the people you love." Isaac hugged his son tightly. "I love you more than anything in this world." "I love you too, Dad." As Isaac turned to leave, Mrs. Wilson caught his arm. "Come back to him," she said quietly. "That boy needs his father." Isaac nodded once and rejoined his team. The assault on Langley's compound began at 0200 hours, the dead of night, when guard alertness would be at its lowest. Using specialized equipment, they bypassed the perimeter sensors and located the maintenance tunnel entrance just where Connors had indicated. "Security systems are top tier," Tyler whispered, examining the electronic lock. "Military grade, but outdated by about 3 years. "Can you crack it?" Isaac asked. Tyler grinned. "Already done." The tunnel was narrow and dark, forcing them to move in single file. Isaac led, with Miles covering the rear. They encountered their first guard checkpoint 200 meters in, 2 men monitoring a security station. Isaac and Jennifer eliminated them silently, using combat knives rather than risking gunshots that might trigger alarms. The team split at the main junction, with Tyler and Diego heading for the security control room, Jennifer and Marcus moving to neutralize the barracks, and Isaac, Miles, and Agent Park continuing toward the command center where Langley would be. "Remember," Isaac told them via their comm units, 20 minutes until the systems reset and detect the breach. Move fast." Isaac's team encountered heavy resistance as they neared the command center, elite guards who fought with the skill of special forces. The resulting firefight was brief but intense, with Miles taking a bullet to the shoulder. "I'm good," he grunted, applying pressure to the wound. "Keep moving." They reached the command center doors just as the facility alarms began blaring. Their time had run out. "Tyler, status?" Isaac demanded into his comm. "Security systems partially compromised," came the reply through bursts of static. "We've got company, lots of it. Jennifer, barracks secured but reinforcements incoming from the east wing. We're holding but can't reach you." Isaac made a quick decision. "Fall back to extraction point Bravo. Get out if you can." "What about you?" Jennifer demanded. "We finish this," Isaac replied, nodding to Miles and Park as they prepared to breach the command center. The doors blew inward with a controlled explosion, and the 3 of them surged through the smoke into a large circular room filled with monitors. At its center stood General Victor Langley, looking unsurprised and unnervingly calm. "I was wondering when you'd arrive, Ghost," he said, as if greeting an expected guest. "Always the dramatic entrance." Isaac kept his weapon trained on Langley's chest. It's over, General. Your operation is burned. Your forces scattered. Langley smiled thinly. You think this is about me? About my operation? He gestured to the screens surrounding them, each showing different military installations, government buildings, and surveillance feeds. This is so much bigger than both of us. Steppy. Away from the console, Agent Park ordered, moving to secure the room's other entrance. Agent Park, Langley acknowledged with a nod. Or should I say, Director Park, your promotion is already arranged, assuming you make the right choice tonight. Park's gun didn't waver. There's only one right choice, stopping whatever you've started. Langley sighed. Always so righteous, both of you. His eyes locked with Isaac's. We created you, Carter. The perfect weapon, the ghost who could go anywhere, kill anyone, vanish without a trace. Did you really think we'd just let you retire? We? Isaac asked, the pieces finally connecting. The same people who authorized the operations you never questioned, Langley replied. The same people who built this facility, who sanctioned everything I've done. You targeted my son, Isaac said, his voice deadly quiet. A regrettable but necessary test, Langley replied without remorse. We needed to know if the ghost could still be awakened, and he could. He gestured to the carnage they'd left in their wake. Look at what you've accomplished tonight. 1 man and a handful of operators infiltrating a supposedly impenetrable facility. Magnificent. Enough talk, Miles growled, moving to secure the room's other exit. Suddenly, all the monitors switched to the same image, a live feed of Elijah's safe house. The camera zoomed in on the boy sleeping peacefully, unaware of the laser sight centered on his chest. Did you really think I wouldn't find him? Langley asked quietly. One word from me, and your son dies. Or... He let the alternative hang in the air. Isaac's finger tightened on the trigger. If anything happens to him, you'll what? Kill me? Then who countermands the kill order? Langley spread his hands. I'm offering you a choice, Carter. Join us, lead the operations you were born to lead, and your son lives a long, happy life. Refuse and... He shrugged. Children die every day. The room fell silent except for the hum of electronics. Miles looked to Isaac, waiting for a signal. Park kept her weapon trained on Langley, her expression grim. There's no scenario where you walk away from this, Isaac said finally. Even if, I agreed, you'd never leave my son alone. You'd always use him as leverage. A calculated risk, Langley admitted, but better odds than he has right now. Isaac's mind raced, evaluating options, scenarios, outcomes, just as he'd been trained to do. In his ear, the comm crackled with Jennifer's voice. Ghost, we've got a situation at the extraction point. Multiple hostiles. The odds were deteriorating by the second. Then, a new voice broke through on all their comms. Unfamiliar, authoritative. Operation Checkmate is a go. All units move on primary target. Langley's expression changed for the first time, a flash of confusion crossing his face. What is this? The monitors around them switched again, this time showing black-clad tactical teams converging on the compound from all directions. Not Langley's men, someone else's. Your mistake, General, Isaac said quietly, was believing you were the only one playing this game. The room's secure door burst open as a tactical team rushed in, led by none other than Colonel Frank Harris, Isaac's former commanding officer who had supposedly died years ago. Room secure, Harris announced, his team quickly disarming Langley. Good to see you, Ghost. What is this? Langley demanded, his composure finally cracking. Harris approached him with cold satisfaction. This, General, is what happens when you target one of our own. Did you really think we'd let you turn the ghost against us? Understanding dawned on Isaac. This was all a setup, from the beginning. Harris nodded. We needed to flush out Langley and his network. When we discovered he was tracking you, building his private army, we saw an opportunity. You used my son as bait, Isaac said, his voice dangerous. No, Harris corrected firmly. The incident with your son was Langley's doing alone. That's when we decided to act. The safe house feed he showed you? A closed loop. Your son was never in danger. We moved him to a secure military facility the moment Langley's men made their first attempt. Isaac glanced at Miles, who nodded confirmation. The boss is telling the truth. I didn't know the full play, but I knew Elijah would be protected. As Langley was taken away in restraints, Harris turned to Isaac. Your country needs you, Ghost. Not as a weapon, but as a shield. What Langley was building, it's just the tip of the iceberg. There are others like him, private armies operating in the shadows. Isaac holstered his weapon, his expression unreadable. My son comes first, always. Of course, Harris agreed. But consider this. The best way to protect him might be to eliminate the threats at their source. With us, you'd have the resources, the intelligence, the support to do that right. Before Isaac could respond, his secure phone buzzed with a text message. It was a photo of Elijah, smiling and safe, holding a handwritten sign. Dad, I'm okay. The soldiers are nice. Something tight in Isaac's chest loosened slightly. His son was safe. Take me to him, he told Harris. Then we'll talk. As they exited the command center, Miles fell in step beside Isaac. So, back in the game, Isaac looked around at the military precision with which Harris's team was securing the facility, the resources that had been marshaled just to extract Langley. Maybe, he replied, but on my terms this time. The ghost of war had returned, not as a weapon to be wielded by others, but as a force of his own making, and his first priority remained unchanged, protecting his son at all costs. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting long shadows across the compound, Isaac made a silent vow. Whatever came next, whatever threats emerged from the shadows, he would face them, not just as the ghost but as a father fighting for his son's future. The war was far from over, but for now, Elijah was safe. And that was enough. 3 days after the raid on Langley's compound, Isaac sat in a sterile government safe house, watching Elijah build a tower with plastic blocks. The boy seemed remarkably resilient, adapting to their temporary housing with the flexibility of youth. He'd been told they were on a special vacation while their house was being fixed, a partial truth that Isaac hated having to tell. A soft knock on the door announced Agent Park's arrival. She'd become Elijah's favorite over the past few days, bringing him books and small toys to ease the transition. Hey, buddy, she said, ruffling Elijah's hair. Think I could borrow your dad for a minute? Elijah nodded without looking up from his construction project. Okay, but tell him not to take too long. We're making spaghetti for dinner. Isaac followed Park into the adjoining room where Colonel Harris waited, his weathered face grave. Langley's talking, Harris said without preamble. And it's worse than we thought. How much worse? Isaac asked, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. Harris spread several files on the table. Langley wasn't just building a private army. He was creating a shadow intelligence network with operatives placed throughout government agencies, military commands, even allied foreign services. And now that we've taken Langley, someone else is taking over his network, Park added. We're seeing activity across multiple channels, assets being moved, communications being rerouted through new servers. Any idea who? Isaac asked. Harris hesitated. That's where things get complicated. Langley claims he was working for a group so classified that even mentioning its name would be treason. He calls them the Board, claims they're former intelligence. Directors, generals, politicians who've operated as a shadow authority for decades. Sounds like a conspiracy theory, Isaac said skeptically. That's what I thought, Harris agreed. Until this. He pushed forward a tablet showing a news report. The headline made Isaac's blood run cold. Former Delta Force operative linked to domestic terrorism plot. The article included a grainy photo of Isaac entering his security firm, along with details of operations that should have been classified. Missions he'd led years ago in countries where America officially had no presence. They're burning you, Harris said simply, making you toxic to every agency that might help you. Someone with very high clearance is leaking your file, Park added. As of 600 this morning, you're officially a wanted man. Isaac absorbed this with the cold calculation of a combat veteran. They're isolating me, cutting off support. It gets worse, Harris said, swiping to another screen showing surveillance footage of Isaac's former Delta Force teammates. They're mocks, targeting your entire former unit. Jennifer Lewis was arrested this morning on fabricated fraud charges. Diego Alvarez's family has been placed under protective custody in Arizona. And Miles? Isaac asked, thinking of his oldest friend. Missing, Park admitted. He went off-grid after escorting Mrs. Wilson to our safe location yesterday. His last message said he detected surveillance and was implementing Ghost Protocol. ACD. Muscle twitched in Isaac's jaw, the only outward sign of his rage. What about Elijah? Is he safe here? For now, Harris confirmed. This location isn't in any official system, but we need to move you both soon. Whoever's behind this has resources we can't match indefinitely. Isaac paced the small room, mind working through scenarios. We need to go on the offensive. Against what? Park asked. We don't even know who we're fighting. Then we make them show themselves, Isaac replied. Every hunter leaves tracks. Before they could discuss further, Isaac's secure phone, one even Harris didn't know about, buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Blake Thompson, Meridian Hotel, room 712. He's their asset. Blake Thompson. The name hit Isaac like a physical blow. Blake had been part of his Delta Force unit, a brother in arms who'd saved Isaac's life twice in Afghanistan. After leaving the service, he'd dropped off the grid, supposedly working private security overseas. I need to go out, Isaac said, his mind already formulating a plan. That's not a good idea, Harris objected. Every law enforcement agency in the country has your photo now. Then I won't be seen, Isaac replied with cold certainty. After extracting a promise from Harris and Park to guard Elijah with their lives, Isaac prepared to move. From a hidden compartment in his go bag, he retrieved items the government team hadn't found. Specialized equipment, alternate identification, and weapons that couldn't be traced. The ghost was hunting again. The Meridian Hotel was upscale, but not ostentatious, perfect for business travelers who valued discretion. Isaac approached through service corridors, using maintenance credentials Miles had prepared for contingencies like this. Security cameras caught only glimpses of a figure in a maintenance uniform, face always turned away at the precise moment needed. Room 712 was at the end of a hallway, with a clear view of both the elevator bank and emergency stairs, a tactical choice that confirmed Blake's military background. Isaac didn't knock. Using electronic skeleton keys, he bypassed the lock silently. Inside, the room was dark, except for the glow of multiple computer screens. Blake sat with his back to the door, headphones on, focused on the displays showing various surveillance feeds, including one of the government safe house where Elijah had been just hours ago. Hello, Blake, Isaac said quietly. Blake froze, then slowly removed his headphones without turning. I wondered if you'd find me, he said, his voice eerily calm. Took you longer than I expected. You're tracking my son, Isaac stated flatly, his gun trained on Blake's head. Just doing my job, Blake replied, finally swiveling his chair to face Isaac. He looked older, with a new scar bisecting his left eyebrow, but his eyes held the same intensity Isaac remembered. Nothing personal. Selling out your former unit is very personal, Isaac countered. Blake shrugged. They made an offer I couldn't refuse. Immunity for past operations, new identity, 10 million in an offshore account. His eyes narrowed. You're good, Ghost, but you're fighting a war you can't win. These people, they own the system. Who are they, Blake? Give me something I can use. A bitter laugh escaped Blake. You still don't get it. There is no they. It's the same people who sent us into those villages at night. The same people who ordered those strikes we never questioned. They just changed offices. Names, Isaac demanded, stepping closer. You think I know names? Blake shook his head. I get my orders through encrypted channels, same as we always did. The difference is, I'm smart enough to know which side to be on when the dust settles. Isaac gestured to the screens. And this? Helping them hunt a 7-year-old boy. That's the side you chose? Something like shame flickered across Blake's face. The boy was never the target. He's leverage. They don't want to hurt him. They want you. Why? Because you're the best they ever created, Blake replied simply. And now they need you back. The pieces were starting to fit together. Langley was a test. Blake nodded. Phase 1. See if the ghost could be reactivated. You passed with flying colors. He nodded toward one screen showing news footage of Langley being taken into custody. Phase 2 was seeing how you'd handle a more complex threat. You passed that too. And Phase 3? Making you desperate enough to accept their offer, Blake said, reaching slowly for an envelope on the desk. They want you to come in voluntarily, lead a new type of unit, off the books beyond oversight. And if I refuse? Blake's expression turned grim. They'll burn everything and everyone you care about. Your son will grow up with a different name, never knowing what happened to his father. Cold rage filled Isaac, but he maintained his control. You really believe they'll honor any deal with you after this is over? Doubt crept into Blake's eyes. I've got insurance. So did Langley, Isaac replied. Look where that got him. A tense silence filled the room. Then Blake made his decision. Server farm in Northern Virginia, he said quietly. Unmarked building, heavy security. That's where they're coordinating from. I can give you access codes. Why the change of heart? Isaac asked, suspicious. Blake's eyes darkened. Because you're right. I've seen how they operate. Once I'm no longer useful. He didn't finish the sentence. Besides, we were brothers once. That still means something to me. Isaac lowered his weapon slightly. If you're playing me, I'm a dead man either way, Blake interrupted. Might as well die with some honor. What followed was a rapid exchange of intelligence, access codes, personnel rotations, security protocols for what Blake called the Nexus. As Blake transferred files to a secure drive, he paused. One more thing you should know, he said gravely. They've activated all former Delta Force operators with your classification level. There's a kill team assembled, the best of the best. Guys we served with, trained with. Who's leading them? Isaac asked, already suspecting the answer. Jackson, Blake replied, confirming Isaac's fears. And he's bringing everyone. Andrew Jackson, the only operator who had ever matched Isaac's skills. They'd been rivals, then teammates, then friends. If Jackson was leading the hunt, things had just gotten exponentially more dangerous. Isaac pocketed the drive and moved toward the door. What will you do now? Blake smiled sadly. Disappear. For real this time. He hesitated. They're watching the boys' safe house ghost. You've got maybe 12 hours before they move. Then I'd better work fast, Isaac replied. As he reached the door, Blake called after him. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Isaac paused. So am I. He left Blake alive. A calculated risk, but one that might pay dividends if Blake truly had switched sides. Outside, Isaac moved through shadow and crowd with practiced invisibility, returning to a secondary safe location where Harris waited. Well, the colonel asked as Isaac entered. We need to move Elijah now, Isaac replied, plugging the drive into Harris's system. And then we need to hit this location with everything we've got. Harris reviewed the intelligence with a growing frown. This is a direct assault on a U.S. government black site, even with my clearance. This stopped being official the moment they targeted my son. Isaac cut him off. We do this my way. Before Harris could respond, alarms blared from his laptop. Breach at the safe house, he announced, already moving. Someone's made a move on Elijah. Isaac was already heading for the door, weapons in hand. Get me there, now. The drive to the safe house was the longest 20 minutes of Isaac's life. When they arrived, the scene was one of controlled chaos. 2 of Harris's men down, Park engaged in a firefight with black-clad figures on the perimeter. Where's my son? Isaac demanded, joining her behind a concrete barrier. Still inside, Park gasped, blood seeping from a graze on her arm. Mrs. Wilson got him to the panic room, but they're well-equipped. Military hardware, tactical formation. Isaac. Assess the situation in seconds. Cover the east approach, I'm going in. What followed was the ghost at his most lethal, moving through chaos with deadly precision. 3 attackers fell before they registered his presence. 2 more went down in a brutal close-quarters exchange near the kitchen. By the time Isaac reached the panic room, 7 bodies lay in his wake. He punched in the access code with steady fingers despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The reinforced door slid open to reveal Mrs. Wilson holding a military-grade pistol with surprising competence. Elijah behind her. "Dad!" Elijah broke free and ran to his father. Isaac swept him into a tight embrace, checking him for injuries. "Are you okay, buddy?" Elijah nodded against his chest. "Mrs. Wilson showed me how to hide really good. She says she was an Army nurse." "Navy?" "Actually," Mrs. Wilson corrected, lowering her weapon. 20 years in special operations support. I figured you had your reasons for not mentioning your background, Mr. Carter. Or should I say Commander?" Isaac gave her a grateful nod. "We need to move. Now." With Park and Harris providing cover, Isaac got Elijah and Mrs. Wilson to a waiting vehicle. As they prepared to leave, a final attacker emerged from the shadows, only to be dropped by a precise shot from a distant rooftop. "Miles," Isaac murmured, spotting the momentary flash from his friend's position. They rendezvoused at an abandoned factory Miles had secured, one of many contingency locations they'd established during their Delta Force days. Inside, Miles greeted them with his characteristic grim humor. "You look terrible," he told Isaac, embracing him briefly before checking the perimeter again. "You're late," Isaac replied with the ghost of a smile. Miles turned serious. "They hit. Everyone, ghost. Jennifer, Marcus, Tyler, all in custody or running. Diego's family is being held as leverage." "I know," Isaac said. "Blake told me." "Blake?" Miles's expression hardened. "You trusted that traitor?" "I verified his intelligence," Isaac replied. "It checks out. We've got the location of their command, center, security protocols, everything we need." "For what?" Harris asked, joining them. "Even with this information, we're outmanned and outgunned." Isaac looked at his son, now sleeping on a makeshift bed with Mrs. Wilson watching over him. "Then we change the game. They want the ghost? They get the ghost." "What are you planning?" Park asked warily. Isaac's eyes turned cold. "Total war." The next 12 hours saw feverish preparation. Using Blake's intelligence and his own extensive knowledge of covert operations, Isaac constructed a plan that was audacious in its simplicity, a direct assault on the heart of their enemy's operation. "It's called the Blackout Protocol," Isaac explained to the small team assembled in the factory's makeshift command center. "We take down their communications, their surveillance, their electronic funds, all simultaneously." "And how exactly do we do that?" Harris asked skeptically. Isaac nodded to Miles, who activated a secure laptop. "Because I designed their security. Architecture," Miles explained. 6 years ago, when I was still with the NSA, I built in a backdoor insurance policy for a rainy day. Which is now a hurricane, Park added grimly. The plan required precise timing and coordination. While Miles prepared the cyber assault, Isaac made contact with the few teammates still free. Jennifer had escaped custody during transport, and Diego had gone dark after extracting his family from so-called protective custody. By midnight, they were ready. "Once we initiate blackout, we'll have a 90-minute window," Isaac told the team. "After that, their backup systems will come online." "And if we fail?" Harris asked. Isaac's expression was grim. "Then we don't get another shot." At precisely 0100 hours, Miles executed the protocol. Across the country, secure servers crashed, encrypted communications went silent, and millions in operational funds suddenly vanished from offshore accounts. The shadow organization that had been hunting Isaac was suddenly blind, deaf, and broke. "Phase 1 complete," Miles announced. "Their network is down. Now for Phase 2, Isaac said, turning to Jennifer. Blake's location? Still at the Meridian, she confirmed. Room's been dark for hours. Isaac nodded. Let's pay him a visit. But when they reached Blake's hotel room, they found it empty. No equipment, no sign of the man himself. Only a single message scrawled on the bathroom mirror in temporary marker. They know. He ran, Jennifer concluded. Or was taken, Isaac countered, noting the subtle signs of a struggle only a trained operative would spot. A scuff mark on the wall, a displaced carpet corner. They had no time to investigate further. Phase 3 was already in motion. The direct assault on the facility Blake had identified as the Nexus. With Langley's men now leaderless and the Shadow Organization's communications down, the time to strike was now. The facility appeared unremarkable from the outside. A plain, office building with moderate security visible, but Isaac knew the real defenses lay beneath in subterranean levels where the true operation was housed. Two-pronged approach, Isaac briefed the team. Miles and Jennifer take the security hub on the first floor. Harris, Park, and I go for the server room in the basement. And if we encounter Jackson's team? Miles asked. We expected this, Isaac replied. They'll be waiting. The initial breach went smoothly, too smoothly. They encountered minimal resistance on the upper floors, securing the security hub within minutes. I don't like this, Jennifer said over the comm as they accessed the facility's internal systems. Where is everyone? Her question was answered moments later as alarms blared throughout the building. Steel shutters slammed down over exits, and gas began venting through the air system. It's a trap, Isaac realized, quickly donning his gas mask and signaling the others to do the same. They knew we were coming. But how? Park demanded. Blake's intelligence checked out. Isaac's mind raced through possibilities. Because they wanted us here. Fighting their way through increasingly dense security, Isaac's team pushed toward the central server room. The resistance they encountered was professional, but not elite. Regular security personnel, not the specialized kill. Team Blake had warned about. Where's Jackson? Isaac muttered as they reached the final corridor. The server room doors loomed ahead, suspiciously unguarded. Isaac approached cautiously, sensing the wrongness of the situation. Something wasn't adding up. Wait, he commanded, halting the team. This isn't their command center. What? Harris demanded. Blake's intelligence was what they wanted him to know. Isaac concluded. This is a decoy. Before they could retreat, the doors slid open to reveal a large empty room. Empty except for a single laptop on a desk in the center. On its screen, a live video feed showed a man Isaac recognized immediately. Andrew Jackson. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the cold eyes of a born killer. Hello, Ghost, Jackson said, his voice emanating from the laptop speakers. I was wondering when you'd figure it out. Where are you? Isaac demanded. Jackson's smile was chilling. Closer than you think, but not to you. The camera pulled back to reveal a playground. In the background, barely visible, was a building Isaac recognized with heart-stopping clarity. Elijah's school. We found your fallback safe house, Jackson continued conversationally. Mrs. Wilson put up quite a fight for a retired nurse. Didn't help her much in the end. Cold dread filled Isaac. If you've hurt my son, relax, Jackson interrupted. The boy's fine. For now. Mrs. Wilson too, though. She'll need medical attention soon. His expression hardened. You know what they want, Ghost. You. Not your son, not your team. Just you. Isaac's mind raced through scenarios, calculating odds, risks, alternatives. There were none. Terms, he said finally. Simple. You, alone, at the coordinates being sent, to your phone. 1 hour. No weapons, no backup. Jackson leaned closer to the camera. Try anything heroic, and the boy dies. And Ghost? I'll be the one pulling the trigger. The feed cut out, leaving them in stunned silence. Isaac's phone buzzed with coordinates, an abandoned industrial park 20 miles away. It's a death sentence, Harris said quietly. I don't have a choice, Isaac replied, already removing his tactical gear. Park stepped forward. There's always a choice. We can still— No, Isaac cut her off. I created this situation. I'll handle it. Miles gripped his arm. At least let us get into position nearby. If things go sideways, they're expecting that, Isaac replied. Jackson knows how we think, how we operate. He'll have counters in place for every scenario. His expression softened slightly. But I'm counting on that. Understanding dawned in Miles's eyes. The Ghost Protocol. Isaac nodded once. Exactly. The Ghost Protocol was something they'd developed years ago. A contingency for situations when an operator needed to appear completely isolated and vulnerable. In reality, it was an elaborate deception, with layers of countermeasures invisible to even the most vigilant observers. I need 40 minutes, Isaac told them. Then I go in alone. Those 40 minutes were spent in focused preparation. While appearing to surrender to the inevitable, Isaac and his team implemented the protocol with practiced efficiency. By the time Isaac left for the meeting point, the trap was set, not for Jackson, but for those who had orchestrated this entire scenario. The industrial park was derelict, with abandoned warehouses creating a maze of potential ambush points. Isaac approached the specified coordinates on foot, hands visible, appearing completely vulnerable. In the center of a dilapidated loading dock stood Jackson, flanked by 4 operators Isaac recognized from their service days. All held weapons, trained on him. Dramatic as always, Isaac commented, stopping 10 yards away. Jackson studied him critically. You're slipping, Ghost. Time was. You wouldn't have walked into an obvious trap. Says the man doing someone else's dirty work, Isaac replied evenly. Where's my son? Safe, Jackson assured him, and he'll stay that way as long as you cooperate. With what, exactly? Before Jackson could answer, a black SUV pulled up behind them. From it emerged a figure Isaac hadn't seen in nearly a decade. Director Richard Keller, former head of Special Operations Command, supposedly retired years ago. Commander Carter, Keller greeted him, as if they were meeting at a Pentagon briefing. Thank you for joining us. Isaac kept his expression neutral despite his surprise. You're behind this? Not just me, Keller replied. But yes, I represent the interests concerned with your situation. You mean the people who authorized assaulting my son? Who threatened his life? Who killed my teammates? Keller's face remained impassive. Regrettable escalations. Not part of the original plan, I assure you. What do you want? Isaac demanded. What we've always wanted, Keller replied. Your skills, your leadership. There's a war coming, Carter. Not like the ones you fought before, a shadow war against enemies within and without. We need the Ghost to lead our most critical operations. And my son? Will be provided for. The best education, security, everything he needs. Keller stepped closer. You can visit him between deployments. Limited contact, of course, but no, Isaac interrupted. Keller blinked. Excuse me? I said no. Isaac's voice was quiet but firm. I'm done being your weapon. Done with the shadows, the black ops, all of it. You don't have a choice, Jackson warned, raising his weapon. There's always a choice, Isaac replied, echoing Park's earlier words. And I've made mine. Keller's expression hardened. Then I'm afraid this conversation is over. He nodded to Jackson. Contain him. Use whatever force necessary. Jackson took a step forward, then froze as red targeting dots appeared on his chest and those of his team. What is this? Keller demanded. Insurance, Isaac replied calmly. Did you really think I'd come alone? From hidden positions throughout the industrial park, figures emerged. Not just Miles and the team, but dozens of operators Isaac had served with over the years. Men and women who owed him their lives, who respected the Ghost more than they feared their paymasters. Among them, to Isaac's surprise, was Blake Thompson, supporting a bruised but very much alive Mrs. Wilson. And beside them stood Elijah, safely, behind a protective cordon. Stand down, Jackson, came a new voice as Colonel Harris emerged from the shadows. That's an order. You don't have the authority, Keller snapped. Actually, he does, said yet another figure approaching from the SUV. a woman in a crisp suit that couldn't quite hide her military bearing. By direct authorization of the president. Isaac recognized her immediately, General Rebecca Chen, the Joint Chiefs Chair. "This operation is terminated," Chen announced, her voice brooking no argument. "Director Keller, you and your associates are remanded to military custody pending investigation for treason, conspiracy, and about 15 other charges my staff is still compiling." As Keller and Jackson were taken into custody, Chen approached Isaac. "Commander Carter, we've been looking for you." "Seems like everyone has," Isaac replied warily. "Not like this," Chen assured him. "What Keller and his group were doing, it wasn't sanctioned. They've been running off-book operations for years, building their own power structure within the system." Isaac glanced toward Elijah, now safe in Mrs. Wilson's arms. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I'm offering you a choice," Chen replied. "A real one. Walk away right now. New identities for you and your son anywhere in the world, or help us dismantle what Keller built," she said simply. "Not as a weapon or a ghost, but as yourself. On the record, with full oversight and protection for your family." Isaac studied her, looking for deception and finding none. "And Elijah? He stays with me, no matter what." "Non-negotiable," Chen agreed. "Those are my terms. Take them or leave. Them." Isaac looked around at the assembled operators, his friends, his teammates, people who had followed him into hell more than once, then at Elijah, watching him with complete trust. His answer would shape everything that followed. The war wasn't over, it was just beginning. But for the first time, Isaac Carter had the chance to fight it on his own terms, and that made all the difference. 3 weeks after the confrontation at the industrial park, Isaac stood at the edge of a forested ridge overlooking a sprawling compound nestled in the valley below. Through high-powered binoculars, he studied the facility, an inconspicuous collection of buildings surrounded by state-of-the-art security measures disguised as ordinary infrastructure. "The fortress," Miles murmured beside him. "Exactly where Keller said it would be." After his capture, Richard Keller had made a calculated decision to cooperate in exchange for leniency. His information had led them here, to the heart of what he called the board's operations. A decommissioned military bunker converted into a private command center, buried beneath an innocent-looking estate in rural Virginia. Thermal imaging confirms 27 heat signatures, Jennifer reported, studying a tablet displaying live reconnaissance data. Consistent with Keller's intel, minimal security personnel, mostly technical staff. Isaac lowered the binoculars. "Too easy. They're expecting us." "Of course they are," General Chen said, approaching from their temporary command post set up half a mile back. "Keller would have had contingencies in place. The moment we took him, the board would have known their location was compromised. So, why are we still going in?" Miles asked. Chen's expression was grim. "Because the intel we extracted from Keller's servers suggests they're accelerating their timeline. Whatever they're planning, it happens soon." Isaac had spent the intervening weeks working with Chen's task force, systematically dismantling Keller's network while preparing for this final assault. Elijah remained secure at a military installation, with Mrs. Wilson, now officially recognized as a retired Navy Special Operations Support Officer, watching over him. "The assault plan stands," Isaac said, turning to the assembled team. "We go in through the maintenance tunnels, bypass the main security checkpoints and hit the central command hub directly." "And if it's a trap?" Harris asked. Isaac's expression hardened. "Then we'll handle it." The team consisted of 12 operators, the most elite soldiers from various branches, plus Isaac's remaining Delta Force teammates. All volunteers, all aware of the risks. "Remember," Isaac addressed them, "these people have operated with impunity for years, corrupting everything they touch. Today, that ends." Night fell over the compound, bringing with it a light rain that would help mask their approach. At precisely 0100 hours, they moved out, using the darkness and weather as cover. The entry point was exactly where Keller had indicated, a maintenance tunnel connected to an underground water management system, designed as an emergency evacuation route. The lock yielded to specialized equipment, allowing them silent access. Security systems indicate all clear, Tyler whispered, monitoring their intrusion software. Either their tech is down or they want us inside, Isaac finished. Stay alert. They moved through the narrow tunnel in practiced formation, sensors scanning for traps or surveillance. The passage gradually widened, transitioning from rough concrete to finished walls lined with conduits and pipes. We should hit the first checkpoint in 20 meters, Miles reported. But when they reached the location, the security station was unmanned. Monitors active, but no personnel in sight. I don't like this, Jennifer muttered, checking corners with her weapon raised. Keep moving, Isaac ordered. Something was wrong, but retreat wasn't an option. They reached the main underground level without encountering resistance. The facility was eerily quiet, emergency lighting providing dim illumination but no alarms, no security response. Central command should be through those doors. Harris indicated a set of reinforced steel doors at the end of the corridor. Isaac approached cautiously, scanning for triggers or traps. Finding none, he signaled the breach team forward. They placed shaped charges precisely, prepared to blow the doors open. On my mark, Isaac said, taking position. 3, 2, 1. The charges detonated with controlled precision, the doors buckling inward. Isaac led the entry, weapon raised, sweeping for targets. The command center beyond was massive, a circular room filled with advanced technology, monitoring stations, and communication equipment. Giant screens lined the walls, displaying surveillance, feeds from locations across the globe, but like the rest of the facility, it was deserted. Clear, Miles called after checking the perimeter. This doesn't make sense, Chen said, lowering her weapon slightly. Where is everyone? Isaac moved toward the central console, a raised platform surrounded by workstations. On the main display, a single message flashed, "Welcome, Ghost." As if triggered by his proximity, the screens around the room suddenly activated, each showing the same image, an elegant conference room where 6 figures sat around a polished table. Their faces were obscured by digital distortion, but their posture and bearing spoke of authority and power. Commander Carter, one figure spoke, voice digitally altered. "We've been expecting you." "Who are you?" Isaac demanded. "We are the board," another figure replied. "The true architects of national security for the past 30 years. Isaac scanned the room for any indication of where the transmission originated. "You mean the architects of corruption, manipulation, and murder?" "A simplistic perspective," the first figure responded. "We do what governments cannot, make the necessary decisions unburdened by politics or public opinion." "Where are your people?" Chen demanded, stepping forward. This facility was fully staffed 24 hours ago. "General Chen," a third figure acknowledged. "A disappointment. We had such hopes for your career." The figure leaned forward slightly. "As for our personnel, they were relocated the moment. Director Keller was compromised. Did you really think we would leave anything of value for you to find?" Isaac's instinct screamed a warning. "It's a trap. Everyone out now." As if on cue, security doors slammed down, sealing the exits. Warning lights flashed as a computerized voice announced, "Facility lockdown initiated. Containment protocol activated." "You've served admirably, Commander," the lead figure said, "but your usefulness has ended." On the monitors, a countdown appeared. 4:59, 4:58. "They're scuttling the facility," Tyler shouted, rushing to a terminal. "Some kind of nerve agent in the ventilation system." Isaac moved instantly, accessing the central console. "Tyler, find the override. Miles, Jennifer, check for manual releases on those doors." "Already on it," Tyler replied, fingers flying over the keyboard. But the system's locked down tight. Whoever designed this knew what they were doing. "We've got 5 minutes to prove we're better," Isaac said, his focus absolute as he attacked the security protocols. The team worked with practiced efficiency, each applying their specialized skills to find a way out. But with each passing minute, the situation grew more dire. "The ventilation shafts are sealed," Diego reported, "and rigged with secondary charges. Server room access is locked down," Jennifer added. We can't reach the main controls. At the 3-minute mark, Isaac made a decision. Everyone, central console, now. As the team gathered, Isaac revealed what he'd found. A maintenance access hatch beneath the command platform. Barely large, enough for one person at a time. Emergency service tunnel, he explained. Leads to a secondary exit point according to these schematics. How many can get through in 3 minutes? Harris asked, eyeing the countdown. Not all of us, Isaac admitted. But it's our only shot. You go first, Chen ordered. You're the most valuable asset. No, Isaac cut her off. My team goes first. He looked at Miles. Get them out. I'll buy you time. Miles hesitated, understanding crossing his face. What? Are you planning? Instead of answering, Isaac turned to Tyler. The nerve agent delivery system, it's pressurized, right? Tyler nodded slowly. Yeah, but... His eyes widened with realization. You can't be serious. Get them out, Isaac repeated to Miles. That's an order. As the team began evacuating, through the narrow tunnel, Isaac worked feverishly at the main console, bypassing security layers with the specialized knowledge only someone of his background possessed. What are you doing? Chen asked, the last one remaining besides Isaac. Creating a pressure valve failure, he explained without looking up. If I can redirect the nerve agent delivery system to backflow into their containment chambers, you'll trigger an explosion, Chen finished. It might create enough structural damage to open an escape route. Or bring the whole place down, Isaac acknowledged grimly. But it beats the alternative. At the 1-minute mark, Chen finally slipped into the maintenance tunnel, leaving Isaac alone in the command center. His fingers moved with surgical precision across the console, implementing a plan that had maybe a 30% chance of success. With 30 seconds remaining, he finished the final sequence, setting the system to overload. Warning alarms blared as the facility's automated voice announced, "Critical system failure. Evacuate immediately." Isaac sprinted for the maintenance tunnel, sealing it behind him as he entered. The narrow passage forced him to move in a hunched position, crawling through decades of dust and cobwebs. The explosion came with 15 seconds left on the countdown, a violent shudder that ran through the entire structure. The tunnel walls cracked, debris raining down as Isaac pushed forward desperately. Ahead he could see light, the exit where his team would be waiting. Another explosion rocked the facility, larger than the first, the shockwave propelling Isaac forward as sections of the tunnel began collapsing behind him. With a final surge of effort, he lunged through the opening, emerging into the night air. As the ground beneath the facility began to sink inward, Miles and Diego grabbed him, dragging him clear as a massive implosion consumed the fortress, the structure folding in on itself like a house of cards. Cutting it close, Miles remarked as they watched the destruction from a safe distance. Isaac, covered in dust and bleeding from multiple cuts, managed a grim smile. Had to make sure the job was done. As the dust settled, Chen approached, her uniform torn, but her bearing undiminished. "The board's transmission. Did you manage to track it?" Isaac nodded. The signal bounced through multiple proxies, but Tyler caught enough to give us a starting point. He looked back at the smoldering crater that had been the fortress. This was just one head of the Hydra. But an important one, Chen replied. We've seized their servers, their records, their operations hub. For the first time, we have solid evidence of their existence. Isaac's thoughts turned to Elijah, his son, waiting safely miles away, unaware of how close his father had come. To death. What's the next move? Chen studied him thoughtfully. That depends on you, Commander. Our agreement stands. You've earned the right to walk away, to take your son and disappear. The team gathered around, awaiting his decision. These men and women had followed him into hell, trusted his leadership, risked everything because they believed in what he was fighting for. The board is still out there, Isaac said finally, and they'll rebuild unless we finish this. Is that a yes? Chen asked. Isaac looked around at his team, battered, exhausted, but unbroken. One condition. My son stays with me. No more shadows, no more ghosts. Whatever I do next, I do as Isaac Carter, not as a ghost. Chen nodded solemnly. I think that can be arranged. As dawn broke over the horizon, Casting long shadows across the destroyed facility, Isaac made a silent promise to his son. This war wasn't over, but its nature had changed. No longer would he be a weapon wielded by others. From now on, he would fight on his own terms, in the light. The ghost was retiring, once and for all. But Isaac Carter was just beginning. 5. Years passed like the turning of seasons, each bringing change, growth, and new beginnings. On a crisp autumn morning, Isaac Carter stood on the back porch of his Montana ranch house, watching Elijah, now 12 years old, practicing martial arts forms in the yard. The boy moved with a fluid grace that reminded Isaac of himself at that age, before the military had honed those movements into lethal efficiency. "His form is improving," Mrs. Wilson remarked, joining Isaac with 2 steaming mugs of coffee. She had remained with them, becoming a grandmother figure to Elijah and an indispensable ally to Isaac. "He's a natural," Isaac agreed, accepting the coffee gratefully. The years had been kind to them. After the destruction of the fortress, Isaac had made good on his promise, retiring from active operations to focus on raising his son. General Chen had honored her part of the bargain, providing them a new start far from the shadows of the past. Officially, Isaac Carter was listed as deceased in all government records, killed during a classified operation. The ghost had vanished completely, becoming a legend whispered about in special forces training centers and intelligence briefings. In reality, Isaac now ran a specialized training program for select military and law enforcement personnel, teaching defensive tactics, threat assessment, and protective strategies. His expertise was sought after by agencies worldwide, but he accepted only those assignments that allowed him to return home to Elijah. The ranch served as both home and training facility, with a state-of-the-art barn conversion that housed classrooms and combat simulation areas. It was a good life, peaceful, purposeful, and far removed from the violence of his former existence. "Package came for you," Mrs. Wilson said, nodding toward an unmarked envelope on the porch table. "Military courier. Signed paperwork and everything." Isaac's expression revealed nothing as he picked up the envelope. Inside was a single USB drive and a note in General Chen's handwriting. "They're moving again. Your call." He slipped both into his pocket without comment. Mrs. Wilson, perceptive, as always, simply nodded and returned inside, leaving him to his thoughts. Later that evening, after Elijah had gone to bed, Isaac sat in his secure office reviewing the contents of the drive. The data told a disturbing story. Remnants of the board regrouping, establishing new operational centers, recruiting assets. They were being more careful this time, more discreet, but the pattern was unmistakable to someone who knew what to look for. A soft knock interrupted his analysis. Miles stood in the doorway, his frame still powerful despite the years, though the scar on his jaw had faded to a thin white line. "Bad news?" Miles asked, glancing at the screens. "The usual," Isaac replied, gesturing for his old friend to enter. Miles had become his chief instructor, moving into a cabin on the property after retiring from his security consulting business 2 years prior. "Chen wants you back in," Miles guessed, settling into a chair. Isaac nodded. "Not directly. She's leaving it up to me." "And what does Isaac Carter want?" Miles asked pointedly. "Not the ghost. You." It was a question Isaac had been asking himself since the package arrived. 5 years ago, his answer would have been immediate: to hunt down every last member of the board, to dismantle their organization piece by piece. The ghost would have demanded nothing less, but he wasn't just the ghost anymore. He was a father, a teacher, a man who had found purpose beyond violence. "I want my son to grow up in a world where shadowy cabals don't manipulate governments and target children to control their parents," Isaac said finally. "But I also want to be there to see him grow up." Miles nodded understanding. "You don't have to choose, you know. Not anymore." "What do you mean?" "You've built something here." Miles gestured around them. "Not just a training facility, a network. People who believe in what you're fighting for. People who can carry that fight forward." It was true. Over the years, Isaac had assembled a team of former operators, intelligence analysts, and specialists, People he trusted implicitly, many of whom had been with him since the beginning. They came and went on various assignments, but always returned to the ranch for new training, new missions. A legacy, Isaac murmured. Exactly, Miles confirmed. The ghost doesn't have to be just one man anymore. The next morning, Isaac called a meeting in the main training barn. 20 individuals gathered. Former Delta Force operators, intelligence, specialists, cyber experts, and tactical planners. Among them were familiar faces, Jennifer, Tyler, Diego, and others who had stood with him against Langley and Keller years ago. I received this yesterday, Isaac began, displaying the intelligence Chen had sent. The board is restructuring, new leadership, new methodology, but the same objective, power without accountability, influence without oversight. The room remained silent, awaiting his directive. 5 years ago, we struck a significant blow, Isaac continued. But we always knew they wouldn't disappear completely. Now they're moving again, and decisions must be made. Jennifer spoke up. What's the play? Ghost? Isaac paused, looking around at these men and women who had followed him through hell and back. I'm not the ghost anymore, he said finally, and that's the point. What we're fighting requires more than one man. It requires a network, a system, a legacy. He outlined his vision, a decentralized operation targeting the board's remnants, through legal channels where possible, covert means where necessary, not a personal vendetta, but a systematic dismantling of corruption conducted by specialists working in concert. Each of you has unique skills, Isaac told them. Together, we can finish what we started, not as ghosts but as guardians. The team dispersed with clear objectives, a renewed sense of purpose energizing their movements. As they filed out, Miles lingered behind. You're sure about this? He asked. Taking a step back, Isaac nodded. I'll coordinate, advise, train, but the days of me infiltrating fortresses and engaging in firefights are over. He smiled faintly. I promised a 12-year-old I'd help coach his baseball team this summer. Later that day, as promised, Isaac took Elijah to the local field for practice. Watching his son interact with other children, laughing, playing, unburdened by the shadows that had defined his father's life, Isaac felt a profound sense of peace. A familiar figure approached the bleachers where he sat, Agent Olivia Park, now Deputy Director Park, her suit as crisp as ever despite the informal setting. Didn't expect to see you in Montana, Isaac remarked as she sat beside him. I was in the neighborhood, she replied with a small smile. Chen wanted me to check on you personally after sending that package. And I'll tell her you're exactly where you need to be. Park watched Elijah successfully catch a difficult fly ball. He's good. He is, Isaac agreed, pride evident in his voice. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes before Park spoke again. The operation you've set up, it's impressive, different from anything we've seen before. It needed to be different, Isaac replied. The old ways, one man, one mission, that was never going to be enough against something like the board. A legacy instead of a legend, Park observed. Something like that. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the baseball diamond, Park departed with a simple nod of respect. Isaac remained, watching Elijah help pack up equipment with his teammates. That night, after dinner, Elijah found Isaac in his study reviewing training protocols. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything, buddy. Elijah hesitated, unusual seriousness crossing his young face. At school today, Mr. Peterson was talking about the military, and he mentioned Delta Force. He said they were the best of the best. He studied his father carefully. Were you really one of them? The best? Isaac considered his answer carefully. There was so much Elijah didn't know. So much he might never need to know about his father's past. But there would be no lies between them, only truths measured appropriately for his age. I was, Isaac acknowledged, for a long time. And people called you Ghost? Isaac's eyebrow raised slightly. Where did you hear that? I heard Uncle Miles. Say it once, Elijah admitted. And sometimes when your old friends visit, they look at you differently than other people do. Perceptive, just like his mother had been. Isaac gestured for Elijah to sit beside him. Yes, that was my call sign, my nickname in the unit. Because you could disappear? Elijah asked, eyes wide with interest. Something like that, Isaac replied with a smile. But that was a long time ago. Elijah considered this. But you still help people, right? That's why people come here to train. That's why you go to Washington sometimes. Yes, Isaac confirmed. I help people, just differently now. Seemingly satisfied, Elijah nodded. I think I'd like to help people too someday. Isaac wrapped an arm around his son's shoulders, feeling a complex mixture of pride and protectiveness. You will, buddy, in your own way. After Elijah went to bed, Isaac stepped outside onto the porch, gazing up at the star-filled Montana sky. From here, the shadows of his past seemed distant, the ghosts quieter than they'd been in years. In a secure facility thousands of miles away, a classified file was updated with a simple notation. Carter, Isaac, status, unknown. The official record would always remain incomplete, the full story never told. But here, under the vast open sky, Isaac Carter stood not as a ghost, but as a man, a father, a teacher, a builder of legacy rather than legend. The most lethal Delta Force commander in history had laid down his weapons, but his war continued through others who carried his banner. And somewhere in the world, in shadows still unexposed, the board watched and whispered of the ghost who never truly died. The man who had transformed from their most dangerous enemy into something even more threatening. A symbol, an idea, a legacy that could not be eliminated with bullets or bombs. As Isaac returned inside to check on his sleeping son, he knew with absolute certainty that he had made the right choice. The ghost was gone, but Isaac Carter remained, and in the end, that would prove more powerful than any legend. If this tale of justice, vengeance, and a father's love stirred something in you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories, where ordinary people reveal their extraordinary depths. Sometimes the most compelling heroes are the ones hiding in plain sight,